Thank you for joining me for episode 4, the bag assembly tutorial. Hello everyone! We're back for episode 4 of our fall granny square tote bag tutorial. In this episode, we will be assembling the 18 squares into our fall tote bag. For this part of the project, you will need a size 4 worsted weight acrylic yarn. I'm using I Love This yarn in the colorway Cinnamon, which is the same yarn that I used in the border round of my granny squares. You'll need a size 5mm crochet hook, also known as a size H, something to measure with, a darning needle, and a pair of scissors. If you want to line your bag with an insert, as I'm going to do, you will need a 15-inch by 16-inch pre-made craft tote bag. The one I'm using is in the color olive, and it's made of canvas. It has one interior pocket, and I purchased mine from Hobby Lobby. The regular price at this time is $3.99, but sometimes they're on sale, and I believe it was on sale when I did purchase mine. The link for this bag will be in the description. Let's get started. In the previous episode, which was episode 3, we blocked our granny squares. Now we have this nice crisp edge. I began the project by purchasing the bag first and then making the first granny square. After completing the first granny square, I then measured it, did the math, and estimated how many squares I would need. My squares are about 5.5 inches by 5.5 inches. I estimated that I would need 9 squares on each side to allow for extra space at the top and enough to cover the bottom, as the bottom of this bag is actually about 3 inches across, as you can see here. Don't stress too much about the math. This is a pretty forgiving project. You can adjust the size of your squares by changing your tension, yarn size, hook size, or number of rounds. There's a number of ways that you can adjust the size of your granny squares. You can also adjust the size of your finished bag by what kind of join you choose to do. So if this is your first time making the bag, it's only going to get easier from here. We're going to begin by joining our bag in rows of 3 granny squares. I turned the camera off and back on again and readjusted my squares. So depending on the colorway and if you're getting a heavy concentration of one color in a row, you might want to rearrange that, which is what I did. So to begin with, this is the top of the bag, and we're going to start on the side and go all the way across, and then when we get here, we're going to do 3 more sets joined to this, so we can go in one continuous row and we won't have a lot of ends to tie in. So what we're doing basically is making a big pocket, and the bag will just slip right down in the top of the pocket here. So let's begin. In this join, I like for the ribbing to show, so I like to do a join where it's like a standing rib, and in this case, you would put the bad side or the back side of the granny square together. So this is what I consider the back side, kind of the ugly side of the stitch. You're going to put those together because when it opens up, it's going to be like this. And this is the front side, the top side of the granny square, which you want showing out. And then you will see a ridge here, because that is just my preference. That is just the way I like to join my bags. I don't always do it that way, but mostly I do like that ribbing to show. It just adds some extra character and gives the bag more depth, structure, and interest. I just think it's a visual interest. So first of all, you're going to put a slip stitch onto your hook, then take the hook off the slip stitch, or the slip stitch off the hook, and you're going to line your corners up together, and you're going to find where that chain stitch space is in the corner, and you're going to put your hook through both of those chain spaces, then put your slip stitch back on, hold onto your yarn on the back side, pull the slip stitch through both of those holes, and then just make another slip stitch right there. And then we're going to start by lining up your 3 crochets, your 3 double crochets in each of those clusters, and you're going to go into the top of that double crochet stitch on both sides, catch both of those granny squares. So now we've got our slip stitch on our hook, and you've got that stitch, that stitch, that stitch, and that stitch. So you should be able to count 5 stitches across. You're going to yarn over, pull through, and you're going to do a single crochet. So pull through both loops. That's going to give you that nice, pretty standing edge on your join. Go into the next 2. Do it again. Go through the top of both of those stitches. Make sure you catch all 4 of those. So now you should have your stitch on your hook plus the other 4. You should be able to count 5 stitches on your hook. You're going to yarn over, pull through all 4, yarn over, pull through 2, which is a single crochet. You're going to do that all the way across. And just try to keep them lined up where you are catching the same stitch in both of those granny squares all the way across. Try to keep them lined up and periodically look at both of your squares to see if you are in the same stitch on both squares. And you can do that by counting these clusters. So right now I've done 2, I've done this one, I've done that one, then I'm on that last double crochet of this cluster, and I want to look and make sure that's exactly where I am on the other side, and I am. So that's how you can keep up with keeping them even. You don't want it to get real wonky where when you get to the end and you've got something like this going on. So you want to make sure that you keep those stitches lined up all the way across. Now, if you were to miss a stitch, you can make up for that. You can frog it, which I suggest that you do, and fix it. But if you are repeatedly making that mistake and you can't figure it out, maybe you're new at granny squares and your stitch count is off a little bit in your granny square, so it's throwing everything else off count, you can fudge it. And these are pretty forgiving projects, and I don't think anyone would know the difference once the project is finished. You won't be able to see that. And I'll show you an example here in a minute when we get around the corner. When we get onto the next granny square, I'll show you how you can adjust if you've made a mistake and try to hide that mistake. Because nothing is more annoying than making the same mistake over and over, especially in the beginning stages of your learning to crochet, and there's just too many mistakes to fix it every time. That happens. It just happens when you're first learning, and there is a way to correct that and salvage your project. So it's not that big of a deal. So please don't stress about that too much. Okay, so next, we did these 2, and now we're getting ready to join these 2. Okay, so this is a little tricky maybe for beginners. Pick up your next set, find that chain stitch space, put your finger in it and hold that. Now pick up your hook, and you're going to go through that space. Pick up your yarn, yarn over, pull through that entire space, yarn over, and make a single crochet. So now hold these two, these new ones that you haven't done yet, get them lined up, find the top of that first double crochet, go through all those top stitches, which would be 4, and then you've got your other stitch already on the hook, so that's 5. Yarn over, pull through all of them, yarn over, pull through 2. Go through the next stitch on both sides, so you've got 5 stitches, the one that's already on your hook, the 4 you just picked up, yarn over, pull through all 4, yarn over, pull through 2. Do that all the way across. If you did not do the invisible join and you have a knot where you fastened off, you may just have to shove your hook in there. It may be a little tricky to get it through. I do the invisible join, so I don't have one I can show you, but that's one of those areas you may have to fudge it and where your stitch count can get off. So for example, let's say that I went through this hole. So I just did the first double crochet in this cluster, and I'm going through the second one. Let's say, for example, on this side, I missed the second one and I went through the third one and I pulled through, and now I'm off. So I've got this one to go, but on this side, I'm finished with it and I'm already off to this first one in the next cluster, but I haven't finished the last one in this cluster. So let's say that I'm too far down the row and I don't know where that happened, that I got off somewhere down here and I can't find it. So what I can do is I can go ahead and go into this next one, which is the last double crochet of this cluster, but on the back side, I've already done that one. I'm going to go through it again and just put 2 stitches in the one on this side, pull it through, and no one will be the wiser when this project is finished. So it doesn't leave a gap. It doesn't make a pucker. It just, it's like I said, yarn is pretty forgiving in this case when you're dealing with granny squares. So that is how you can fix that error if that happens. But for me, I'm going to just frog it because I know that I just made that mistake intentionally. So we're going to fix it. And frogging, if you're very, very new to crochet, means to rip it out, rivet, rivet. Sounds like the sound a frog makes. And I'm going to go back through this top of this second crochet of this cluster, second double crochet of this cluster, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Go through the third one, go through all those top stitches, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Okay, so I'm going to continue, and you can meet me at the end of this row. Okay, we are at the end of this row. So now we have 4 of our granny squares joined on one side. Now we're going to start this one. So we're going to pick up these 2 squares, find that chain 1 space. You've got the ugly sides together facing the inside and the pretty side, which is the outside, facing outward. Pull your yarn out this way from your hook. Slip your hook through that chain 1 space through both of those granny squares, pull it through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now go through find the top of that first double crochet in that first cluster, go through both top side, which is 4 stitches, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Keep going, and I will meet you at the end of this row. So now we have it's looking really good. Okay, and now we're going to do what would be the back side. I'm going to set these 3 aside. This is our bottom, and flip this over so you can kind of get an idea of what we're doing. So now we're going to do the first and second row of this side. And again, I'm going to try to arrange these where I'm not getting a heavy concentration of one color. So, all right, so it looks like I have a lot of this wine or burgundy color in here, and this one does not have so much. I think I'm going to put that one here. This one has more green, that one has more green and doesn't have the wine color, and I'm satisfied with that. I think that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take this out of the back side. Let's see. I'm going to roll this over and try to do this without confusing you. So there's our back side. All right, so I'm going to pull it out just so I can work. And be careful not to let these twist. They will twist as you move them around. So if you get something twisted like this, just look and make sure that you're looking at the correct side, that they're all lined up. This one is twisted, and I'm going to put it back where it goes. And then I want to make sure it didn't flip over twice and that these stitches are not twisted right here at the joins. So it's nice and straight. And I'm going to slip this over to the side. I'm going to pick up these 2 and make sure I've got the right side facing out, which I do. And I'm going to find that chain 1 space in both of them, put my hook through, pull up my yarn, yarn over, pull through that hole, that chain 1 space, yarn over, pull through 2. That's my first single crochet. I'm going to put my hook back in the top of that first double crochet cluster all the way across. So I've got 5 stitches on my hook, the one I already had, then 4 more, yarn over, pull through 4, yarn over, pull through 2, and just continue that process all the way across, trying to keep your double crochets lined up. Periodically just look at them and make sure that you are in the same spot on both sides. You can do that by looking at the cluster, making sure you're in the right cluster and on the right stitch of each cluster. And that will keep you on track. So just do that all the way across, and I'll meet you at the end of this row. All right, I'm going to repeat the process. Pick these 2 up. Find that chain 1 space. Make sure you're on the correct side of each of those granny squares. Find that chain 1 space. Pull up your yarn. Put your hook through both sides of that chain 1 space. Pull up your yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, which is your first single crochet, and then find the top of your first double crochet of the first cluster and, and single crochet across. And I will meet you at the end of this row. And we are finished with that one. Again, I need to make sure I'm not getting them twisted. So we've got a lot going on here now. Okay, we're on our last one, which completes the front and back side of this first whole top half. Really, it's the top 2/3. So pick up your last pair of granny squares, put your hook through that chain 1 space, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through 2. That's your single crochet. Find the top stitches of that first double crochet of the first cluster and single crochet across, and I will meet you at the end. Okay, now we have the first 2/3 finished as far as that first join going across. Now we are ready to add the last row. So we're going to do these one at a time instead of picking them up in pairs because we're going to be attaching them to this bottom row. Okay, again, we want to make sure we kind of have our color scheme lined up in a way that's aesthetically pleasing to us. So it gets a little harder the further along in the project you are. But with this particular colorway, it's not that difficult to make it look good. Actually, I think if I even just laid them out randomly and did not make any adjustments, it would still be pretty. So let's see, I've got 2 right here together with this purple or wine color border, and I really don't want the, oh, and this one has the wine color border also, so I'm going to swap that with that. And I have another strong concentration of the wine here, but I have a almost solid green one on the end, so I'm going to swap those 2. And I think I'm satisfied with that. Although I have 2, I'm very funny about this. I can do this all day long with swapping out my squares to make them the right concentration of and distribution of color that I like. This one and this one have strong concentrations in the center, so I'm going to take this one out and I'm going to swap it with this one on the end, and voila, I think I'm satisfied. I think I'm happy with that. But we're going with that. So I'm going to have to cut my yarn on this corner, and I'll weave that end in later. I usually do it as I go, but I don't want to do it in this case because I don't want to move these squares around too much and get them tangled or in the wrong order back, since I've worked so hard at lining them up the way that I want. So I'm going to start actually down on this end here, and we're going to work this way. See if I can get this all back in frame without making it too confusing. Okay. Pick my square up. Here we go. And again, make sure that the like sides are out and that I call it the ugly side, the less pretty side is facing inward. Okay, get those lined up. Make my slip knot on my hook. Put my corners together. So I'm looking for that chain 1 space right there in the middle. And this, when you're beginning your row, this is when you take the slip knot off your hook, put your hook through the chain 1 space, then put the slip knot back on, pull up your yarn, pull the slip knot through the chain 1 space, yarn over, and pull through. So you're making a slip knot there. And now you're going into that very first double crochet the top of it. So now you have 4 stitches on your hook, excuse me, 5. You have 5 stitches on your hook, yarn over, pull through 4, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is our first single crochet. Go through the top of the next double crochet, all 4 of those stitches, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and single crochet across the entire top of this set. You know the drill by now. I'll meet you at the end. We're back at that corner and shoving our hook through that last stitch. It is not the chain one space opening, it's the last double crochet of that last cluster. I hope I've said that before, but if I didn't, let's be clear about that. So now we have, can you see we have 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, the rest of them are 2 across. And now we're getting ready to attach the third one to this row. So I'm going to go over here, pick this one up, bring it over, turn this one up, find the corner, put my hook through the chain one space, pull up my yarn, yarn over, pull through 2, which is our first single crochet. We're going to go into the top of that next, well, actually the first double crochet of that first cluster and single crochet across, and I will meet you at the end of this pair. And we are back at the end of our second row going this way. We have 4 more to go. Okay. All right, I'm going to pull this out, make sure things are nice and even and not twisted. That one is twisted. It just happens. I'm going to put it back, make sure it's not twisted. Okay, now it's not twisted. Kind of fold it over. Get our next one, which is actually under here. Okay, and join it with this one because we have this row's folded up, it's hidden. So we're on our third row going this way. Okay. Find your corner, line it up, put your yarn through that chain one space, yarn over, pull through, pull it tight, yarn over, pull through 2. Now do the same as we've done repeatedly before. Go into the top of that double crochet stitch, go through, make sure you're going through on both sides, and crochet, single crochet across. I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I've just finished this one, which is that third row. We're getting ready to start the second half, so pick up the next 2, find your chain one space, put the hook through both sides of that chain one space in both the granny squares, yarn over, pull through the chain one space, yarn over, pull through 2, and then begin single crocheting across the top of those double crochet stitches all the way across. I'll meet you at the end of this row. And voila, we're finished with that row. We're going on to the next row, and by now I think you understand the concept, and I'm going to meet you at the end of this row over here. And then when we'll start joining this way, I will come back for that and we'll go over that together. We are finished with this row and this row, and now I'm going to cut off, fasten off right here on this end, pull it through, and I'm going to fold it, and we're going to start putting the 2 sides together. So now you're looking at the back side, the inside of the bag. I'm going to pull this back over, fold it up, and we're going to join this side right here. And I'm going to have to turn it so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to leave my bag under it so I can remember the position and which way I wanted it turned. That will help me, because if I remove the bag, I will not remember which way it's supposed to go. Not that it really matters. I don't think we can go wrong, but I'm going to do that just in case. So for this join, I'm going to go all the way down this side, all the way across the bottom, and then back up the other side. And I'm doing that so that we can have as few ends to weave in as possible. So I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook. I'm going to pull you. We're going to start right here. So this would be the top of the bag, the top right corner of the bag. And again, make sure that your seams are straight, that you have not accidentally twisted the bag somewhere, and also that all of the front sides are showing, are facing up. Again, you've put your slip knot on, but you're taking it back off your hook. You're going to go into the corner. You have to do that every time you're fastening on. You have to take the slip knot off the hook, put it back on the hook, and then pull your yarn through both of those chain one spaces. Pull through. So we have slip knotted on to get started. And then we're going to go through the top of your first 2 double crochets, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Same routine. Now you're going to do that all the way down the edge of this bag. So this is the first time we'll be doing this in a long continuous row without having to stop and add in the next set of granny squares that are already joined. So we're going to be able to just go right down through here without stopping. The most important thing is to check periodically to make sure that you're lined up and look at your cluster. Make sure you're on the first, second, or third double crochet in that cluster, but that you are in the same spot on each side. So I'm going into the first double crochet of this first cluster, making sure I'm doing that on each side, and I am, and then just keep on going down through here. So I will meet you back at the bottom of the row. Actually, I'm going to stay with you until we cross over this first join, and we'll do that together just to make sure there's nothing tricky right there. Okay, just check and make sure you're lined up, still lined up, that your clusters are coming out even. Your bag is not going to come out wonky or loplolly or whatever you want to call it. I'm almost at the corner. Okay, I'm at the last top of the last double crochet. If you can't find exactly where to put in your hook in that join, go in where you joined it together. Even if it doesn't look like an actual stitch and you just can't tell, go ahead and put it through anyway. And then when you cross over that join, you're going to put your hook in the single crochet in the chain space of those 2 corners, because we've crossed over the first set and now we're beginning the second set that are already joined together. But just put your hook through that first space, then go into the top of that first double crochet in that next cluster, and then just keep going across, and you should be fine until you get to that next join. And again, when you get to that join, if it doesn't look even to you or you can't really tell where your stitch is, just put it through anyway in the middle and then go through to the next chain space of that next corner. I'll show you when we get down there, just in case you're having any trouble or apprehensions about it. We're almost there. I'll catch up with you at the corner. Okay, we are at the join, so I'm putting my hook through both sides of that join and making a single crochet stitch over that join. And then I'm going to find the chain space of that next corner, which is the next two granny squares, and put my hook through the chain space on both sides, make sure I'm in the right spot, and I'm going to get single crochet right across it. Then I'm going to go into the top of the first double crochet of that cluster and just truck right on across. Okay, now we're going to turn. We're going across the bottom. This is the bottom of our bag. You can see the straps are up here. Okay, so we're going across the bottom, and it's just the same thing all the way. Here we're going to go into that corner and single crochet through that chain one space, and then we're going to go all the way across. And I think you know the plan by now, so I'm going to meet you at this corner. Okay, we're at the end of the bottom row. I'm going to turn the bag this way, so I'm going up the other side. So I ended on that last stitch, which is the third double crochet before we get to the chain one space. So now I'm going to go into the chain one space and make a single crochet, and now back into the first stitch of the next double crochet cluster, and we're going to do that all the way across, and I will meet you at the opposite end, which is the top of the bag of the other side, and there we will fasten off. Okay, I'm actually going to pop back in here just in case you're having any trouble going across this first ribbing across the bottom here. So I'm just going to put my hook in that single crochet, which was the ribbing that went this way, and make a single crochet over it, and then pop right back over into that first double crochet of that next cluster, and then just keep on going right on across. And that gives us a very pretty finish. So I've made it to the end here. We started over on the other side of the bag. See if I can get this in the whole shot for you. So we started over here. We came down the side, around the bottom, back up the other side, and we ended here. So I've cut my yarn, and I'm just going to fasten off right there. And now we're going to do these rows. Let me turn the bag around the way it should be facing so as not to confuse you, hopefully. So what isn't joined together is down here, and also the same on the other side. So I'm going to start, just because of the way I crochet, I'm going to turn the bag around this way, and I'm going to start here at the top. I'm going to go down around the bottom and back up the other side so that I don't have another finish off down here. The fewer ends you have to weave in, the better. So again, I'm going to be starting here. So I'm going to pull these corners up together and fasten on right here at this corner. So I'm going to make my slip stitch. And again, when we are fastening on, we have to take our slip stitch off of the hook, find the corner, find the chain space. Put the loop back on your hook. Grab your yarn. Pull it through. Pull the yarn through both sides of that granny square and slip stitch on. Then start with your first single crochet in the top of that first double crochet stitch and go all the way down. Second verse, same as the first, just repeat that process, and I will rejoin you on the back side of the bag on this row. So I'm going to go all the way down, flip the bag over, and come up here and meet you here at the top on the other side. Okay, so I started on the back side, well, which was the front side, came all the way around and finished here. So now I am going to finish off that end right there. And now I'm going to flip the bag over. And I'm going to start here. And then we're going to go all the way down, back up the other side, and this part will be complete. And then we're going to do a nice finish edge along the top and then talk about what we want to do with our handles. So as before, we're going to slip stitch on. And remember, when we are tying on, we have to take the slip stitch off of the hook, find the chain space in our corner, put the hook through both edges of the corner, and put the slip stitch back on your hook, pull it through that chain one space, and then slip stitch on. Follow that by going into your the top of your first double crochet stitch in that very first cluster. And do a single crochet down the entire thing and back up the other side, and I will meet you literally on the other side of this bag. And I'm back up on the top of the opposite side, and that is our last row. So I'm going to tie this end off. Let's see how many ends we have to weave in. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is there a sixth one? No, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's it. So that's not too terribly bad. Let's go ahead and weave in our ends, and then we'll do a nice border row at the top. It'll be simple, something that a beginner can do. And then we will discuss what we would like to do with the handles. Let's turn the bag inside out, and I will show you if you had, or if you would like to turn your bag in the opposite direction. you can get more of a, well, you can get a flat join. So if you would like to do the same process, just do the opposite way. So put the back sides of your granny squares together instead of the front sides, you will get this flat join, which, like I told you, I like the finish of the ribbing. I just think it looks nice. It just adds a little character to the bag. So that's how I choose to do it, but you can do it either way. It's your bag. Do it however you prefer. So now we're going to weave in those ends. So I had to turn the bag inside out because we're going to weave the ends in on the back side, not the front side. So those ends are going to be showing on the front side, but just thread your yarn through your needle. And I said this in one of the previous episodes. This is a Susan Bates needle, and I really like these. I've discovered them on a tutorial that I was watching, and so the eye of the needle goes down through the entire length of the needle. It's super easy to thread. I love that, and it's very flexible. I have really been pretty vigorous with these, and I have not had one break in two, and they're really pointy, very sharp and pointy. So it's nice to get them through those fibers. As far as what I have ever used, this is the best needle I have ever come across for weaving in ends. I really prefer it a lot, and you might want to give it a try. They come in a variety pack of different sizes of 5, and they're over $7. I can't remember the exact amount, but I can include those in the description. You can purchase them on Amazon. Okay, so I've pulled the yarn through to the back side, and I am going to just weave in my ends. You can weave it in wherever you like. I think that the seam is going to be, the joining seam is going to be a good place to hide it. So remember the rule of 3. So I like to switch directions 3 times before cutting off. So that was 1, 2, and this is the 3rd. And then I'm going to cut. And you cannot see it on the back side of that or on the front side of the join. So that's 1 down, 8 to go. So you just continue weaving in your ends, and I will meet you back, and we will talk about how we're going to finish off the top of the bag. And we're back with all of the ends weaved in, and now I'm going to turn the bag back to right side out. Again, I really like how the standing seam looks. Just doing the single crochet on the outside of the bag. I just really like, it's just a nice ribbing. I really like ribbing. Let's open this up. So as I mentioned, if you want to use it for a pillow, you could just put a pillow insert in here instead. But we're going to put our bag insert inside and tuck your corners all the way down. If you wish to do so, you could tack the edges down or the corners down of your bag by sewing it. You don't have to sew the whole thing in. You could just do a couple of stitches here and a couple of stitches there, and that way if you wanted to take the liner out to wash the bag, you could do that. But this yarn holds up really well, and I don't think there will be any problem in just washing the entire bag all together with the liner still in there with the yarn bag on the outside and the canvas liner on the inside. I think it will wash up, machine wash just fine, because this acrylic yarn is pretty durable and resilient. It holds its color really well, and it holds its shape really well. So here we go. We're going to do a nice finish edge on the border of the top, and when we do that, we're going to loop in around these handles so that when you're holding your bag, it doesn't slip out. Okay, so we're going to fasten on, and you're going to put a slip stitch on your hook, Then tighten it, slip it off your hook, go into the chain space in the corner, go into the top of the ribbing in the very last stitch at the top of that ribbing, pull the slip stitch through and slip stitch again to join, and then yarn over, and then go into the top of that first double crochet, and we are going to do half double crochets all the way across, and that's going to be our border. So let me start again. So a half double crochet is yarn over, go through the top of that double crochet stitch, and which is the first stitch of that cluster, yarn over, pull through, and instead of making a double crochet, you are just going to take your hook and pull through all 3 loops, and you're going to do that all the way across. So yarn over, go through the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, yarn over, go through the top of that stitch, yarn over, pull through all 3, yarn over, go through the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3, yarn over, go through the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all 3. Okay, so please do that all the way across, and I will meet you at the end of the row, and then we're going to flip the bag over and do the back side. We've done the top edge and we are at the side, so I want you to go into the top of that seam stitch, the one that came down the joining stitch. Just go into the top stitch of that and do a half double crochet. Then turn over your bag, continue your half double crochet all the way across, and I will meet you at the other end. So we're finished. We've come along that edge on the other side, and we're back to where we began. So I'm going to do an invisible join to finish. So I'm cutting my yarn. Pulling the stitch all the way through. So we're going to thread our needle. And you're going to go into the second stitch from where we started. So this was our first stitch, and this is our second one. So go underneath the top of that stitch. Make sure you go through both sides of it, front and the back. Pull all the way through, and we're going to create another stitch. That's why we went into the second stitch instead of the first one, because this finish is going to create another stitch. Pull it to where it's a similar size of your other stitches, and then this is the stitch we came out of, so the very next one. Don't go here, don't go underneath it as we did on this side, go in between it, split it in half and go right through the middle. And then pull. And it creates what looks like another stitch. It's kind of a faux stitch, but see, look at that nice finish. Can't even tell where we started. So instead of just fastening off by pulling that knot, it leaves you with a nice clean finish. And then just weave in your end on the back side. Okay, we have the bag all stitched together. Everything is seamed, and we also have our border at the top. I failed to mention that we may need some stitch markers, so I've grabbed those. If you don't have stitch markers, you can use a scrap piece of yarn. And what we are doing is we're going to mark where we want to fasten the bag to the liner. So find your seam and then count 1 stitch over and mark that spot. And then we're going to count 6 stitches over to the right, using that first where that marker is a stitch 1. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is about the length of the bag handle. Okay, we're going to do the same. We're going to repeat that on the opposite side. So there is the seam, and we're going to count 1 over, which is this stitch right here. We're going to mark that, and then we're going to count 6 stitches over to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and mark that stitch. And then we're going to flip the bag over and do the same on the opposite side. So we can keep everything nice and symmetrical. So there is our seam, our joining seam, and we're going to go 1 over. So there's this one, and then I'm going to count over to the left 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's the other one, and then we're going to do the same on this side. There's the seam in the middle. There's 1 stitch over. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so this is where we are going to join the actual bag to the liner. All right, so we're going to fasten back onto the bag, and we are going to do that by slip stitching. Pull that tight. And then we're going to fasten on over here where the seam came up. So take the slip stitch off your hook, put your hook through that first stitch, put the slip stitch back on your hook, pull it through, yarn over, and fasten on. So we are reattached. Now we are going to slip stitch all the way across until we get to where our stitch markers are. So to slip stitch, you just go into the stitch, so into the top of that double crochet, just as we've been doing, yarn over, pull it through, don't yarn over again, just pull straight through. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and pull straight through without yarning over. Go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, pull it straight through without yarning over, and you're going to repeat that all the way until we get to our first stitch marker. So what we're doing is we're working our way across the piece without adding any more height to it. Keep going, just keep slip stitching until we get to our marker. Okay, so now we're at our marker. Remove your stitch marker. So now we're at our marker, and we're going to chain 6 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you're going to need to take your yarn, let go of your hook, but don't let it slip off your hook. Don't let your yarn slip off the hook. And pull your yarn around the handle of the bag. Bring your hook around. And then you're going to reattach where the other slip stitch was that you left. So you're going to reattach there, and you're going to yarn over. You can remove your stitch marker if you're ready to do that. It's up to you. You can leave it on or remove it. I'm going to remove mine. Yarn over, pull through, and just pull straight through. Okay? All right, so now we've attached the first handle. We're going to continue to slip stitch across. It's probably best that we leave that yarn under that handle. You can move it around however you need, but for me, I think that's going to work best and keep me from getting tangled. Okay, so now I'm going to continue to slip stitch across. So you do that by going through both loops on that next stitch, yarn over, pull through, and just pull straight through without yarning over again. Put it through the top of the next half double crochet, yarn over, pull through, don't yarn over again, pull straight through. Continue that until you get to the next stitch marker. And we have made it across to the next stitch marker. So I'm going to take that stitch marker out and count 6 chain stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then I'm going to pull that chain around the back side of that handle. Take out my stitch marker here. Insert my hook into where the stitch marker was. Yarn over, pull through, and pull straight through to attach it. Now I'm going to continue with that slip stitch all the way across and around to the other side. So I'll meet you on the back side of the bag. And we are back to the opposite side of the bag. We've made our way all the way around. I've made it to the stitch marker, and I am going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to remove my stitch markers. Going around the back side of the handle. Then I'm going to reinsert my hook where the other stitch marker is located. I'm going to take my stitch marker out. Okay, and now I'm going to pull straight through. So now that handle is attached, and I'm going to continue with my slip stitches across until we get to the next stitch marker, and I will meet you back there. We are at our 4th and final handle, so I'm removing the stitch marker, chaining 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going around that handle. I'm going to remove this stitch marker. Insert my hook and slip stitch into that stitch and slip stitch the rest of the way across where we began. And I'm going to finish off with the invisible join again. So I'm going to cut my yarn, pull this through, thread my Susan Bates needle, and then I'm going to find the top of that second slip stitch, go through both sides of it, pull through, come back, and then go down in between the stitch I just started from. Pull that through. And there we go. There's our invisible join. And then we need to weave in our ends. So I'm going to do that off camera. There we have it, friends. Voila! You have completed your beautiful granny square fall bag. I think she looks just lovely. I'm a bag person. I love bags. And I think this is the perfect fall accessory. And of course you can make it in any color you want. You can do Christmas, you can do spring, you can do summer. The sky is the limit on color choices and varieties of bags you can make once you learn how. And this is just a great way to get started with learning how to do the granny square bag or any bag. Once you've done this one, then you can just advance from there. So please join me in the last and final episode. It will be the last installment of this tutorial series where we are going to design our own bag charm embellishment. And with bag charms, you can change the look of your bag by just changing your embellishment or your accessories. So we're going to make one of those, and I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll see you in the next episode. Please come back and join me. Bye.
Chic, chic.